The desert stretched endlessly under the burning alien sun, its sand shifting with every gust of hot wind. The human walked carefully, his boots sinking slightly into the soft ground, while the alien girl moved ahead with ease. Her skin shimmered faintly under the light, a pale green glow that almost blended with the horizon. She turned back to him, her lips curling into a mocking smile. "You humans always look so fragile here," she teased, her voice carrying lightly through the dry air. "Are you sure you can even handle this?" He didn't answer her, his eyes fixed instead on the structure rising far in the distance, half buried in the sand like a giant claw frozen in time. The closer they came, the more it revealed itself. It wasn't just a ruin, it was a pyramid, colossal in size, its sharp angles still intact, even though countless centuries had passed. Strange symbols glowed faintly across its surface, alive with an energy that neither wind nor sand could erase. The girl slowed her pace as they reached the edge of the massive stones. Her teasing tone vanished, replaced by something colder. "This place is forbidden. My people call it the tomb of the first ones. No one dares step inside." She touched one of the glowing marks with trembling fingers, but quickly pulled her hand away, as if it burned. "They say whoever enters never comes back." The human tilted his head, his expression unreadable. Fear wasn't in his eyes, only curiosity. He stepped closer, examining the massive entrance stone, its surface cracked but unbroken. The alien girl frowned, her voice sharp with irritation. "Are you even listening? This place killed explorers before you were even born. Entire teams went missing. My people believe it is cursed." She folded her arms, trying to mask her unease. "Of course, maybe humans are too stupid to know when to turn back." The human finally looked at her, his gaze calm but steady. "Curses," he said softly, "are only warnings left behind by the weak. If no one returned, maybe they weren't smart enough to understand what this place wants." He placed his hand flat against the stone. The girl gasped, her hand shooting forward as if to stop him, but it was too late. The moment his palm touched the surface, the pyramid responded. A deep vibration shook the sand beneath their feet, a low rumble that echoed through the ground like the heartbeat of some enormous creature waking from a long sleep. The glowing symbols on the walls flared brighter, pulsing in rhythm with the sound. The alien girl stumbled back, her eyes wide in disbelief. "You! What did you do?" she shouted, her voice cracking. The human did not move his hand. The stone beneath his palm shifted, the cracks widening, dust falling in streams. Slowly, with a grinding groan that pierced the desert silence, a massive slab began to sink inward. The air filled with the sound of ancient gears turning, mechanisms that had been asleep for ages suddenly roaring back to life. A line of light appeared in the center of the pyramid's wall, stretching from the top to the ground. The line widened, splitting into a doorway. A gust of air blew out from the darkness within, colder than the desert night. It carried with it a strange whisper, a voice that wasn't quite a voice, like wind curling into words too faint to understand. The alien girl pressed her hands to her ears, trembling. No, no one was ever supposed to open it. Her fear was real now, her mocking tone gone. She looked at the human with a mixture of anger and terror. "You've doomed us both." He stepped back, watching as the doorway fully formed. Inside, there was nothing but shadow, thick and unbroken. The symbols around the entrance glowed like watchful eyes, their light casting sharp patterns across his face. He felt the weight of the moment, the pull of something ancient calling from beyond. The girl's voice broke again, softer this time, filled with dread. "The door. It should not exist. My ancestors sealed it forever. How can it answer to you, human?" The human turned his head slightly, his expression calm but his voice steady, almost challenging. "Maybe it was never meant for your people." His words made her freeze, her breath catching as the truth pressed into her mind. The pyramid hadn't responded to her, only to him. She had mocked his curiosity, his nature, but now that same human nature had awakened something her kind had feared for generations. The rumble faded into silence, but the air itself seemed alive now, heavy with tension. The entrance yawned before them like a mouth waiting to swallow its prey. The desert, once alive with wind, grew unnaturally quiet. Not a grain of sand shifted. Not a sound escaped. Even the sun seemed dimmer, hidden behind an invisible shadow cast by the awakened pyramid. The alien girl stepped back, her fear now mixing with reluctant fascination. She couldn't deny the pull of the unknown, even if it terrified her. Her people had always whispered stories of this place, of ancient voices, lost civilizations, and punishments worse than death. Yet here she was, standing at the threshold with the one creature no one expected to survive, the human. The human lifted a small light from his pack, its beam cutting into the first few meters of darkness. Nothing moved inside, yet the shadows seemed deeper than they should be, twisting strangely against the light. He didn't hesitate. He stepped closer to the opening, his boots pressing into the sand at the edge of the threshold. The girl's voice cracked as she called out, "If we enter, we may never return." Without turning back, he answered, his voice low and firm. "Then I'll see what no one has ever seen." The cold breath of the pyramid brushed against them once more, carrying with it the faintest sound, almost like laughter, almost like a welcome. The girl's heart raced. The human stood tall, and the shadows within waited, hungry, as if aware that the door had been opened after endless years of silence. The darkness swallowed them the moment they stepped inside. The heavy desert light vanished behind the stone doorway, leaving only the weak beam of the human's light to cut through the shadows. The air was thick, heavier than outside, filled with the scent of old dust and something strange, almost metallic, that clung to their throats when they breathed. The alien girl walked close to him now, her earlier mocking tone gone. She hugged herself, her eyes darting to the glowing symbols carved along the walls. They pulsed faintly, like veins carrying some slow heartbeat deep into the pyramid. Their footsteps echoed unnaturally, as if the sound traveled much farther than the narrow passage should allow. Every step felt like it awakened something asleep in the walls, something that listened but did not yet show itself. The girl whispered, her voice breaking, "This is wrong. This place is alive." The human glanced at her but said nothing, his eyes locked ahead, his hand tight around the light. They reached a wider hall, the ceiling rising so high the beam of light could not touch it. Strange carvings spread across the walls, filled with alien figures locked in battles. Strange beasts rising from the ground, and towers of fire falling from the sky. The girl ran her fingers lightly over one of the carvings. The stone shifted under her touch, glowing brighter where her hand traced the lines. She gasped and pulled back, her hand trembling. "It reacts, even now." Her voice carried fear, but also curiosity she could not hide. The human's eyes scanned the hall. At first, it seemed empty, but then he noticed the bones. Scattered near the walls lay the remains of explorers long forgotten. Alien skeletons twisted in unnatural shapes, their skulls cracked open, their limbs broken as if they had fallen in terror or been struck by something unseen. The human bent down near one of the skeletons and lifted a shattered piece of armor. Its edges were burned, melted as if struck by heat far stronger than fire. He dropped it quickly, the clatter echoing loudly through the silent chamber. The girl covered her mouth, her wide eyes fixed on the bones. They must be the ones who came before. My people say none who entered ever left. Maybe these are their bodies." She turned quickly to him, her voice shaking. "We must leave now. The door is still open. We should go back before it shuts." But before she could finish, the sound they both feared filled the hall. With a grinding slam, the doorway they had entered sealed shut, the stone shifting back into place. The desert light disappeared completely, leaving them locked inside with only the dim glow of the symbols and the human's small beam. The girl's breath quickened into panic, her voice rising. "It trapped us, just like it trapped them." She gestured at the broken skeletons, her fear breaking through every word. The human did not panic. He walked calmly to the sealed doorway and pressed his hand against it, testing it. The stone was solid, unmoving, as if it had never been a door at all. He took a deep breath, his face calm. "We can't go back. The only way now is forward." His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. The girl stepped back from him, her hands shaking. "Forward? Do you even hear yourself? This place is a grave. It killed them, and it will kill us too." She looked at the shadows in the corners, half expecting something to leap out at her, but the shadows did not move. They only waited. The human lifted his light again and aimed it deeper into the pyramid. Another passage stretched from the far end of the hall, narrow and dark, the glowing symbols continuing along its walls like a path marked long ago. He stepped toward it. His footsteps echoed louder this time, like the stones themselves repeated the sound to whoever listened in the dark. The girl did not follow immediately. She stood frozen between fear and the strange pull of curiosity. Her people had always spoken of this place with terror, but never had she stood this close to the truth of it. Her heart pounded as she glanced again at the skeletons. Some looked like they had been reaching for the doorway, as if trying to escape before being struck down. She shivered, her breath catching in her throat. Finally, with a small, shaky step, she followed after the human. As they walked down the passage, the air grew colder. Their breath came out in faint clouds, even though outside the desert was scorching hot. The walls shimmered with a faint blue glow now, and the carvings changed. No longer battles, but figures kneeling, bowing toward a central throne, their faces carved with fear. The girl touched one image, her hand trembling. This is older than my people's history. No one remembers these stories anymore. It is as if they were erased. The human didn't slow. His steps were sure, though his eyes scanned everything carefully. The strange whispers grew louder now, echoing softly through the halls. They were not words he could understand, not yet, but they pressed against his mind, almost shaping meaning. The girl covered her ears again, shaking her head. "Do you hear it? The voices? They're trying to get inside my head." He nodded slightly, his jaw tight. "Yes, I hear them too." But he did not stop. Something about the whispers, though disturbing, felt like a call to him, as if the pyramid recognized him in a way it did not recognize her. At the end of the passage, they reached another vast chamber. This one was filled with towering statues, their faces hidden under heavy helmets, their arms crossed over their chests. The girl clutched his arm tightly, her voice dropping to a fearful whisper. "Guardians. These are guardians of the tomb." The human lifted his light higher, casting shadows across the silent stone figures. They stood unmoving, but in the silence of the chamber, he felt as if dozens of unseen eyes had turned toward him. The girl trembled beside him, whispering again, "We should not be here." The human stared forward into the endless dark beyond the statues, his light barely touching the far wall. "We're already here," he said quietly. His voice was calm, but inside both of them knew the truth. The pyramid had shut them in, and it would not let them go until its secrets were revealed. The statues towered above them, silent and unmoving, but the human could feel their weight pressing down on him as if the stone figures were alive and watching. Each one was carved with great detail, their armor sharp, their faces hidden behind helmets that reflected the faint blue glow of the walls. Their arms were crossed, holding strange weapons that seemed ready to strike at any moment. The alien girl clutched his arm tightly, her breathing unsteady. She whispered, as if afraid her voice alone might wake them. "These guardians, my people say they watch forever. They do not sleep." The human did not reply. He stepped carefully into the chamber, his boots tapping against the smooth floor. The moment his foot touched the center of the room, the statues shifted. It was not a clear movement, only the smallest tilt of their heads, so slight that someone unsure might think it was only a trick of light. But he was certain. They had moved. He lifted his hand slowly, his light sweeping across their stone faces. The shadows stretched long and strange, and the air itself seemed to hum. Then the voice came. It did not come from the statues, not exactly, but from everywhere at once. Deep, broken words echoed inside their minds, heavy and strange, as though the pyramid itself was speaking. The alien girl covered her ears and cried out, falling to her knees. "It's inside my head! It's speaking to me!" The human's jaw tightened. He heard it too, but where her body shook with fear, his heart steadied. The words were unclear, fragments of an ancient tongue, but he could feel meaning pressing against his thoughts. Prove, worth, survive. As the voice faded, the floor beneath them began to glow. Lines of light formed across the stone, stretching into a pattern of shifting tiles. Some tiles glowed bright, while others stayed dark. The glowing ones rearranged themselves, moving like sliding plates under his feet. The girl screamed and leapt back just as one tile cracked open, dropping into a pit so deep that no bottom could be seen. A rush of cold air came from below, and the sound of something moving far beneath made her cover her mouth in terror. "It's a trial," the human muttered under his breath. His eyes scanned the pattern quickly. The tiles shifted every few seconds, rearranging themselves like a puzzle designed to confuse. One wrong step and he would fall. The girl's voice trembled. No one can cross this. This is how they died. This is how it ends. She shook her head wildly, her eyes wide. We should not even try. The statues, the voices, this is punishment. But the human stepped forward. The first tile shook under his boot, then held firm. The girl gasped. You'll die, she cried. He didn't turn back. Instead, he studied the pattern carefully, watching the way the glowing tiles shifted and reformed. He noticed that certain lines repeated in a rhythm, almost like music. He waited, counted silently, then stepped onto the next tile. Again, it held firm, while the one behind him cracked open and fell away into the pit. The statues moved again, their heads following him as he walked. Their stone hands gripped their weapons tighter, a grinding sound echoing through the chamber. The girl clutched her chest, whispering fast, broken prayers in her language, her eyes never leaving him. He moved step by step, each one a risk. The tiles ahead shifted faster now, glowing and darkening without pattern. But he noticed small carvings along the edges of the floor, symbols that matched the glowing marks on the pyramid walls outside. He understood. The path was not random, it was hidden in the carvings. He crouched low, studying the lines, and then began to move again with certainty. The girl's eyes widened as she realized he was solving it. Her fear turned into disbelief. How? How can you see what no one else could? Her voice cracked with confusion. Even my people, born from this world, failed. Yet you? She stopped herself, unable to finish the thought. As he stepped onto the final glowing tile, the voice returned, louder this time, filling every part of the chamber, shaking the walls. The statues raised their weapons, the sound of stone grinding against stone filling the air. The girl screamed and hid her face, certain they were about to be crushed. But instead of striking, the statues lowered their heads. One by one, they bowed deeply, their stone faces angled toward the human. The weapons returned to their resting place across their chests. The voice thundered in his mind again, but this time clearer. Worthy. Continue. The floor stopped shifting. The glowing tiles froze in place, and a new sound echoed through the chamber, the grinding rumble of stone sliding against stone. On the far wall, another door appeared, its surface cracking open slowly to reveal a passage lit by a strange, cold light. The girl slowly raised her head, her eyes wide, her body trembling. She could not understand what she had just seen. Her people had feared this place for centuries, believing it a tomb of death and curses. Yet this human had not only survived, but been recognized by the pyramid itself. She stared at him, her lips parting in shock. It bowed to you, she whispered. The guardians bowed. The human did not answer. His face was calm, but deep inside he felt the weight of what had just happened. The trial was not just a test of survival, it had been a judgment. The pyramid had accepted him. Without waiting for her to recover, he stepped toward the new passage. The air that flowed from it was colder, sharper, as though it carried secrets untouched for ages. The girl stood frozen for a moment, her thoughts spinning. She had mocked him before, calling him weak, fragile, unworthy of the dangers of her world. But now the truth stood in front of her. The ancient guardians of her people had bowed to a human. Fear and wonder mixed inside her chest as she slowly followed him. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "What are you, really?" The shadows of the chamber stretched behind them as they entered the new passage. The statues remained bowed, silent once more, watching as the human and the alien girl disappeared deeper into the heart of the pyramid, where greater mysteries and darker truths waited. The passage led them into a chamber unlike the others. The walls here did not carry carvings of war or guardians, but instead curved smoothly as if shaped by flowing water. At the center was a pool, its surface glowing with a soft blue light that reflected across the chamber like liquid stars. Mist rose gently from it, filling the air with a cool, almost sweet scent. The human stopped at the edge, his eyes fixed on the strange water. The alien girl stepped closer too, her voice hushed with awe. "This is not just water, it is memory." She knelt down, her hand trembling as she hovered it over the surface. The pool pulsed faintly, reacting to her presence, but when she lowered her fingers into the liquid, the glow flared and spread. Images began to rise, swirling like smoke above the pool. At first they were shapeless, just colors and light, but then they sharpened into visions. The human's breath caught in his throat as he saw alien armies marching across strange landscapes, towering ships hovering in skies filled with fire. The girl gasped, clutching her chest. These, these are my people's ancestors. This is our past. But as the images continued, the human noticed something strange. Among the alien warriors, there were figures that were not alien at all. They looked human. Dressed differently, weaker, smaller, but undeniably human. He stepped closer, his eyes narrowing as the pool shifted again. The humans in the vision fought alongside the aliens, sometimes against them, sometimes beside them. It was a history no one had told him before. He whispered softly, "Humans? We're here?" The girl's eyes widened, her head snapping toward him. "That's impossible. Your kind? You came from far away, from another world. How could you be here in the time of my ancestors?" Her voice carried disbelief, but also a trembling fear that the visions might be true. The pool answered her doubt with another surge of light. The visions shifted again, showing battles lost, worlds burning, and human faces screaming as they vanished into fire. She stumbled back, shaking her head. No, this cannot be real. The human stared harder, his jaw tight. The pool was not lying. He could feel it. The memories carved into this chamber were too sharp, too full of life to be false. As he reached down and touched the glowing water himself, the visions changed once more. This time, they were not of the past, but of the future. He saw the alien girl herself, older, her face marked with pain. She was lying on the ground, blood staining her skin, her hand reaching toward him as if begging for help. His heart clenched at the sight. The girl gasped as the same vision entered her mind. She staggered back, her voice shaking. "I saw. Me. I saw my death. This pool is cursed. It shows lies." Her voice was desperate, but her trembling body betrayed her fear. She looked at the human, her eyes wide with terror. "Why would it show such a thing? Why would it show me dying with you standing there?" The human pulled his hand back, but the images lingered in his mind, clear and burning. He could not shake the feeling that it wasn't just a warning, but a demand. The pyramid was showing them a path, and if they ignored it, the future it revealed would come true. He stared at the girl, his voice low but firm. "Maybe it's not a lie. Maybe it's telling us what will happen if we don't listen." The girl shook her head violently, her voice cracking. "No, you don't understand. My people fear this place because it twists minds. It shows things to break us. If my death is part of this, then it is only to scare me." She tried to convince herself, but the look in her eyes showed she was already doubting her own words. The pool shifted again, not waiting for them. This time it showed the human, standing before the same throne they had seen carved into the walls earlier. Around him, alien figures knelt in obedience, while fire rose in the distance. The girl's breath caught in her throat as she whispered, "It sees you. This place knows you." Her body shook as she stepped back, her voice breaking. "You don't belong here. And yet this pyramid answers to you." The human's face remained steady, though deep inside his thoughts churned. Why would an alien pyramid know him, recognize him, show him this destiny? He had come here only as an explorer, curious about the past. Now it felt like he had stepped into something far larger, something ancient and unavoidable. The girl hugged herself tightly, her voice barely above a whisper. "If my people learn of this, they will fear you. They will call you a curse. Some will worship you. Others will want you dead. And me." She stopped, tears gathering in her eyes. "Me, I saw my own end. What am I supposed to believe?" The human crouched near the pool again, staring at the fading images as they dissolved back into the glowing water. His reflection stared back at him, twisted by the light, but behind it, he thought he saw something else. Another face, faint and distant, but human. It whispered something he could not quite hear, as if urging him to continue deeper into the pyramid. The girl stepped closer to him again, her fear mixing with desperate curiosity. "If this place shows truth, then why? Why does it show me beside you? Why does it tie my fate to yours?" Her voice cracked as she looked at him, searching his face for an answer he did not have. The silence of the chamber grew heavier. The pool calmed, its surface still once more, but the weight of its visions pressed on them both. The human stood slowly, his jaw set. He could not change what he had seen, nor could he erase the truth it revealed. The pyramid was not just a tomb or a trial, it was a memory of something older than either of them. The girl's voice broke the silence, soft and trembling. If the pool is right, then I will die unless I follow you. Her eyes locked with his, wide and fearful, but with something else hidden inside: acceptance. She hated it, but she knew she could not run from what she had seen. The human looked at her, then at the path beyond the chamber. He felt the cold air pulling them forward again, as if the pyramid itself demanded they continue. Without another word, he turned toward the dark corridor. The girl hesitated, her legs heavy, but finally she followed, her heart racing with every step. Behind them, the pool pulsed once more, faintly, as if it had only shown them the beginning of truths far more dangerous waiting ahead. The corridor twisted deeper into the pyramid, and the cold air turned sharper with every step. The human's light flickered across the walls, showing carvings of strange beasts with wings and claws, creatures that seemed half machine and half alive. The alien girl walked close behind him, her eyes darting nervously to every corner. Her voice was low, trembling. "This is the place where no one should go. Beyond this hall lies the Guardian." Her words proved true. At the end of the corridor, the space opened into a vast chamber. The ceiling rose so high it vanished into darkness, and the walls shimmered with faint blue veins of light. At the very center stood something massive. At first, it looked like a statue, but then it moved. A giant made of stone and metal pulled itself free from the wall. Its eyes glowed like fire, and its chest pulsed with a dull red light like the heart of a furnace. The ground shook as it stepped forward, its heavy arms ending in blades sharper than steel. The alien girl gasped and stumbled back. Her voice broke in fear. "No one has ever passed this. That is the Guardian of the Tomb. It killed every explorer who tried." She pulled at the human's arm desperately. "We have to run." But there was nowhere to run. The passage they had entered sealed itself with a wall of stone, trapping them in. The Guardian raised its arm and slammed it down. The ground cracked, throwing the human to one knee. Dust filled the air, and the girl screamed, covering her face. The human stood again, his eyes locked on the towering creature. He did not have weapons strong enough to fight something made of both stone and machine. But he did not back away. The Guardian roared, the sound shaking the chamber like thunder. It swung its blade arm toward him. The human rolled aside just in time, the strike smashing the ground where he had been standing. Shards of stone flew in every direction, one cutting across his arm. Blood dripped down, but he ignored it, his mind racing. He scanned the chamber, looking for anything that could help. His light caught something. Symbols carved into the walls, pulsing brighter when the Guardian moved. They seemed connected, as if the creature's power came from them. The alien girl cried out, pointing. "The runes! It draws strength from the runes!" She shouted desperately, her fear turning to sudden realization. But she had no idea how to use that knowledge. The human, however, understood. He sprinted toward the wall, dodging another strike from the Guardian. The blade tore across the floor, sparks flying, but he reached the carvings and slammed his hand against one of them. The rune flared, then dimmed, its glow fading as if drained. The Guardian staggered, its chest light flickering weakly for a moment before it roared again, angrier than before. The girl gasped, her eyes wide. "You weakened it! Do it again!" The Guardian charged, its heavy steps making the ground tremble. The human leapt aside, narrowly escaping another crushing blow. He ran toward another rune, this one higher on the wall. He climbed the broken stone, his fingers gripping rough edges, while the Guardian's blade scraped dangerously close to his back. He slammed his palm against the glowing symbol, and once again the light faded. The Guardian groaned, stumbling as if its strength drained away piece by piece. But the battle was not over. The Guardian swung wildly now, its movements furious, and the shockwaves knocked the human to the ground. His light flickered and rolled across the floor. The girl screamed his name, running to him, but the Guardian's blade came down between them, cutting off her path. She froze, trembling, tears in her eyes. "You'll die!" The human pushed himself up, his breathing heavy. His eyes locked on the creature, then on the last rune, glowing faintly near the far wall. He knew what had to be done. He dashed across the chamber, the Guardian stomping after him. Each step it took shook the floor, and its blade swung close enough to scrape his back. He ran faster, every muscle burning, until he leapt forward and slammed both hands onto the final rune. The light exploded across the chamber. The runes flared brightly, then shattered. their glow burning out forever. The guardian screamed, a sound that echoed like breaking mountains. Its chest flickered violently, sparks shooting out, and then with a final roar, it collapsed. The giant crashed to the ground, shaking the chamber so hard that dust rained from the ceiling. Its body cracked apart, stone turning to rubble, metal rusting to black ash in moments. Silence followed. The human stood in the dust, his chest rising and falling heavily, sweat and blood covering him. The alien girl rushed to his side, grabbing his arm. Her eyes were wide with shock and awe. You did it. No one has ever done this. The Guardian was supposed to be impossible to kill. Her voice trembled, but now it was not only fear, it was something else. Respect. The human wiped the blood from his arm, his face calm though his body ached. He looked at the remains of the Guardian, the broken rubble that once stood as an unstoppable protector. For centuries, it had killed all who entered, but now it had fallen to him. The girl stared at him for a long moment, then whispered softly, almost to herself. The pyramid? It wanted you to win. That's why it opened for you. That's why it let you pass the trials. You're not just a stranger here. You are the key. The silence of the chamber was broken again, this time by the sound of stone grinding. Behind the Guardian's broken body, another wall began to shift. A new passage revealed itself, glowing with faint golden light. The human looked at it, his expression steady, while the girl trembled beside him. She knew that every step deeper would reveal truths her people had hidden for generations. The Guardian was gone, but the real secret of the pyramid still waited ahead. And for the first time, she realized she was no longer afraid of the human. She was afraid of what the pyramid would make of him. The golden light from the new passage spilled across the broken stones, guiding them forward. The human stepped first, his face calm but his eyes sharp, watching every shadow. The alien girl followed close, her heart pounding with both fear and curiosity. The air grew heavier as they moved deeper, filled with a humming sound that vibrated through their bones. The corridor ended in a vast circular chamber, larger than anything they had seen before. At the center stood a throne, not made of stone, but of a strange metal that glowed softly, as if alive. Around it, symbols floated in the air, drifting like holograms, changing shape as though they were thinking on their own. The girl gasped, her voice trembling. This is the heart of the pyramid. My people say only the first ones ever sat upon that throne. It is the seat of rulers, the key to everything. She stepped back, bowing her head slightly, afraid to even look directly at it. But the human kept walking, drawn forward as if the throne itself was calling him. When he came closer, the floating symbols began to react. They pulsed brighter, spinning faster, and rearranging themselves into patterns that circled him like living chains of light. The air shifted with a sudden burst of cold, and the chamber shook slightly. The girl cried out, clutching her chest. It knows you. It recognizes you. Her voice was filled with disbelief. The human stopped just in front of the throne. His reflection shimmered across the metal surface, but it wasn't only his face. Behind his image, he saw other human faces, blurred and ghost-like, as though the throne remembered them from long ago. He reached out slowly, his fingers brushing the edge. The moment he touched it, the entire chamber lit up. The floating symbols surged with power, casting bright beams that filled the space with golden fire. The girl fell to her knees, covering her eyes. Her voice shook as she cried out, "It cannot be! The throne has rejected every alien who tried to claim it. Even our kings, our greatest warriors, were turned to ash. But you, it accepts you." She looked up, trembling, as the light wrapped around him like a crown. A voice echoed through the chamber, deeper and clearer than before. It spoke in both their minds, words that vibrated with power. The chosen key has returned. The human's jaw tightened as the weight of the voice pressed into his chest, heavy but not crushing. The throne was not just a seat, it was a command center, a memory of the first ones, perhaps even their will made solid. The girl bowed her head low, her body shaking. This cannot be true. A human cannot be the key. You do not belong to this world, and yet this place, my ancestors' place, answers only to you. Her voice was broken, filled with confusion and fear. The human slowly lowered himself onto the throne. The moment he sat, the floating symbols rushed inward, surrounding him, binding to his body like streams of light. His veins glowed faintly, his eyes reflecting the golden fire. The chamber roared with energy, and the pyramid itself seemed to awaken. The girl screamed as the floor shook, cracks spreading out in circles from the throne. Visions flooded his mind. He saw the ancient world alive, filled with both humans and aliens working together, building wonders, conquering stars. He saw betrayal too, wars that tore their unity apart, great weapons unleashed, and the sealing of the pyramid to bury the truth. Then the vision shifted, showing him now, here, chosen not by accident, but by design. The girl watched him, her lips trembling as she whispered, "You are not just a man. You are part of the prophecy my people buried, the one they feared would return." Her eyes widened further as the throne's voice echoed again. Blood of two worlds, the key that unlocks what was forgotten. The human gripped the arms of the throne, his body shaking as the visions continued. He saw armies bowing to him, alien rulers kneeling, stars bending to his command. But with every vision came a weight, a question pressed deep into his thoughts. Would he take control, or would he destroy what remained? The power could rebuild civilizations or end them forever. The girl's voice cracked as she pleaded, "Do not take it. If you accept, the pyramid will give you command over more than you can understand. You will not be just a man anymore. You will become something else." Her fear was raw, but her eyes never left him. The throne pulsed again, a beam of light shooting upward into the darkness above. The chamber echoed with the sound of machines waking, gears turning in places unseen. The pyramid was alive, and now it had a master. The girl covered her mouth, tears falling down her face. "My people will never accept this. They will see you as either a god or a monster. Either way, nothing will ever be the same." The human's breathing was heavy, his mind drowning in visions of fire and glory. Yet his face stayed calm, his hands steady on the throne. He looked at the girl, his voice deep and unshaken. "I didn't come here to rule, but I will not run from what this place has chosen." The throne glowed brighter, and the floating symbols wrapped around him like armor, marking him with patterns that burned faintly into his skin. The girl trembled, her eyes wide, whispering softly as if to herself. The legends were true. The key was never one of us. It was always human. The chamber calmed, the light dimming but never fully leaving. The throne had accepted him, and now the pyramid itself seemed to breathe in rhythm with his heart. The girl remained on her knees, staring at him with a mixture of terror and awe, knowing the path ahead would no longer be theirs to choose. The pyramid had made its decision, and the decision was him. The chamber trembled as the throne accepted him fully. The floating symbols circled faster, then shot outward like streaks of lightning into the walls. The whole pyramid shook as if awakening from a deep sleep. The human gripped the throne tightly, his body glowing with the same golden fire that burned in the air. The alien girl could hardly breathe as she watched. Her people had spoken of the heart of the throne, but always as myth. Now she saw it alive, and it was bound not to her kind, but to the human she once mocked. The walls split apart with a deep grinding sound, stone sliding against stone. Dust poured down as cracks spread through the chamber, but the cracks were not destruction, they were openings. The floor shook beneath their feet until the ground itself parted, and beyond it, an entire city revealed itself. Towers of alien design, buried for centuries under sand and stone, rose from the depths. The glowing veins of light stretched into the distance, igniting the ancient city with power once thought lost forever. The girl gasped, stumbling to her feet. Her eyes were wide, tears streaming down her face as she whispered, "The lost capital, it still exists." She pressed her hand to her chest, unable to believe. Her ancestors had told stories of a golden city, the first city where the rulers of her people once commanded entire worlds. They said it was destroyed in fire and buried forever. But here it stood, alive again because the human had touched the throne. Outside, the desert groaned and shifted as more of the buried city rose above the sands. The pyramid's crown glowed like a beacon, visible for miles. In the distance, alien tribes looked toward it, their voices rising in panic and awe. Some screamed in terror, others fell to their knees. The sky itself seemed to darken as if the world knew something had changed. The human sat still on the throne, his eyes glowing faintly, his chest rising and falling heavily. The visions had not left him. He still saw flashes of future wars, kneeling armies, and burning skies. The throne whispered in his mind, urging him, offering him power beyond imagination. Command, Rule, restore. The words pressed on him, heavy like chains. The alien girl crept closer, trembling. She knelt before him, not from choice, but from fear. Her voice cracked as she spoke. You have awakened what my people buried in shame. You are now part of their prophecy. Some will worship you, human. Others will hunt you, but none will ignore you. Her body shook as she lowered her head. Even I cannot decide if I should bow to you or fear you. The human looked at her, his face calm, but his heart restless. He did not want worship. He did not want to rule. Yet the throne had chosen him, and now the entire pyramid, no, the entire city, was bound to him. He stood slowly, and as he did, the symbols wrapped around his body like a cloak of light, then faded into his skin, leaving glowing marks behind. He was no longer just a visitor. He was a living key to the forgotten empire. The girl lifted her head slightly, her voice breaking. Do you even know what you have done? You are no longer just a man. You carry the weight of my ancestors. The first ones themselves bow through you. The ground shook again, and the sound of the city outside grew louder. From the distance came voices. Hundreds, maybe thousands of aliens gathering. They had seen the rising capital. They were coming. The girl's face turned pale. They will come here. Some to kneel, some to kill you before you can claim what is theirs. The human stepped away from the throne, his eyes on the glowing passage that now led outside. He spoke quietly, but his voice carried power. I did not come here to take what is theirs, but now I cannot walk away. This place woke for me. That means something. The girl shook her head, fear etched in her face. It means you will never be free again. Everywhere you go, the city's shadow will follow. The throne chose you, and now the world will not forget. Her words trembled, but inside she knew the truth. The moment he touched the pyramid, both their fates had been sealed. They walked together toward the opening. Outside, the desert winds carried the sound of alien voices chanting, screaming, calling out. Some carried weapons, others carried banners. The rising city cast a golden glow across the dunes, a light that marked the beginning of something neither of them understood fully. The girl stopped at the edge of the chamber, turning to look at him one last time. Her eyes were full of fear, but also something new. Acceptance. She whispered. The voice said, "You are the key. If that is true, then my future, even my life, is tied to you now." She swallowed hard, her body trembling. I saw my death in the pool. Maybe it was warning me. Or maybe it was telling me that if I do not stay with you, I will not survive what is coming. The human looked at her, his expression steady, though deep inside he carried the weight of everything he had seen. He gave no promise, no answer, only a calm nod. Then he stepped forward into the light of the awakened city. The girl followed, her heart racing, her mind filled with dread. Outside, the first of the alien tribes fell silent as they saw him emerge. A human, standing in the glow of the throne's power, walking beside one of their own. Gasps spread through the crowd. Some dropped to their knees, others raised their weapons. The silence broke as one voice shouted in fear, another in worship. The crowd split between devotion and hatred. The girl clutched the human's arm tightly, whispering, "They will never see you as just a man again." Above them, the golden crown of the pyramid pulsed once more, sending a beam of light into the sky like a signal to the stars. The lost city had returned, and with it, a human had become its chosen master. The girl's fate was bound to him, the world's eyes now fixed upon him, and the pyramid's voice whispered still in his mind, promising power, warning of war, and reminding him of the truth he could not escape. The door had been opened, and nothing could ever be the same again.